Hi everyone, it's Charlotte here, bonsoir. So this evening we're looking at an interesting structure, venir de plus an infinitive verb. So venir de plus an infinitive verb translates into English as to have just done something. So you could find out a little bit more about this by looking for the recent past or le passé proche, which gives you an indication of what it means. So, par exemple, je viens de manger un sandwich. Je viens de manger. I have just eaten. Je viens de partir. I have just left, as in to depart from somewhere. Je viens de parler avec Sarah. I have just spoken with Sarah. So, je viens de is useful in explaining something that has just recently taken place, something which is, in the very, very near past. So, it looks a bit strange to conjugate the verb venir if you're not talking about provenance. Like normally you'd say something like je viens de Paris, or je viens du Pays de Galles, par exemple. So this is just kind of like it's not even idiomatic, it's just a structure that translates into English as to have just done something. So you need to firstly know your verb venir. So this is the conjugation in the present tense. So it's worth us going over these. The first three sound exactly the same. So je viens, tu viens, that's the informal tu form or the you form, singular, and then vient, il vient, elle vient, on vient. Okay, so you need to know those three, but they happen to all sound the same, so that's quite easy. Nous venons, so as usual, new forms of verbs in the present tense end with O-N-S, and that's pronounced on. Venons. Okay, this is quite typical of a vous form verb. Vous venez, like you come from. Vous, d'où venez-vous? Where do you come from? Okay, you're using that verb. Il or elle, there's a slightly different pronunciation to these three. So, ils viennent de faire quelque chose. Elles viennent de faire quelque chose. So you pronounce the E-N-N-E here, okay? Je viens, tu viens, il vient, nous venons, vous venez, ils or elles viennent, okay? So once you've got those down, you need the preposition de, which normally means of or from, but here it just just functions as part of the structure to get the meaning across. If it helps you to think, je viens de faire quelque chose, if it helps you to think I have just come from doing something, use that as a memory aid, okay? But try not to rely on it, just get used to practicing. So, we need, as always, the subject pronoun. Je, par exemple, je viens de, let's look at an example from my sheet. So, anyone who's a member of my French club will receive this handout shortly, and you can fill in the gaps on some of the missing word ones, or you can follow the link to do some further study online. So, je viens de sortir. I have just sortir. I have just gone out. Okay, sortir is like the verb that means to go out for the evening, or to go out as in not being inside anymore. So that's a useful one. Let's do another one. Tu viens de partir. Oh, excuse-moi. What have I missed out there? I've missed out the de. Tu viens de partir. You have just, what was partir? Partir is to leave or to depart, right? To go from one place to somewhere else. Tu viens de partir. So that wouldn't make sense if you didn't have the de in there. It wouldn't be quite right, okay? Let's do an elle vient de. So she has just, elle vient de. Okay, what if I wanted to say she has just arrived? Hold on. She has just arrived. So I need the verb arriver. That's the only thing I really need to do. Once I know I've conjugated viens or venir in the right form, which is like this, and then I've put the preposition de, I need to just use an infinitive verb, arriver. However, something else happens. We've got the preposition de followed by a verb which starts with a vowel, right? So you might be familiar with what happens when we have a preposition like de followed by a verb or a noun that starts with a vowel. So this is what happens. The de becomes d apostrophe, okay, like this. Elle vient d'arriver. She has just arrived. If it was he has just arrived, all we would change is the subject pronoun. Il vient d'arriver. Okay. If you're using the on form, which looks like this, on, that's often used to mean we. On vient d'arriver. Okay. So any verb that starts with a vowel is going to have an apostrophe, and then it's going to be pronounced as if the D is part of the verb. Okay, so let's think of a verb that doesn't start with a vowel. Elle vient de parler avec quelqu'un. Let's say avec Sophie. He, she, or one or we have just spoken with Sophie. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just to shake it up a little bit, is go to a page I was looking at earlier with some examples of venir de plus an infinitive. So let's see, vient de, here's a nice one. So nous venons, I wish this was true. Nous venons de voyager en France. You can see why I wish it was true. We have just travelled in France, or around France if you like. Actually, you could say we have just travelled to France, en France, because when you use to go to somewhere, like a country, if it's a feminine country, then it takes the preposition en. So, je vais en France, I'm going to France, okay? So, voyager en France, to travel to France or travel in France, depending on the context. Okay, vous venez, let's see, so vous venez de, let's find a verb that I don't use very often, because sometimes you can use the same ones a bit too often. Oh, ok. Oui, téléphoner. Pourquoi pas? Vous venez de, so vous venez de téléphoner. So that obviously means to make a phone call or telephone someone, to phone someone. Vous venez de téléphoner à votre mère. Why have I got à votre mère? Vous venez de téléphoner à votre mère. You have just phoned, telephoned, called by phone to your mother. So téléphoner à quelqu'un means to phone someone up or to call someone or to telephone them. So the verb téléphoner is followed by the preposition à, whereas in English you don't follow the verb to telephone with the preposition. It's just followed by the person you're phoning. Phone him, phone her, phone your mother, phone our sister. So that's a slight difference, one to be aware of. Vous venez de téléphoner à votre mère, you have just called your mother or just phoned your mother. Okay, let's do a bit more of a stranger one. Here's one I thought was quite funny. So, ils viennent or it could be elles viennent. Okay, it's the same conjugation of the verb venir, whether it's il or elle. Il vient de couper. Couper le quoi? Couper le fromage. Il vient de couper le fromage. They have just cut the cheese. It's a strange example, isn't it? But I thought it was quite funny. Il vient de... no, actually, if I were to say il vient de, as opposed to ils viennent de, vient, vienne, vient, vienne. So there's a slight difference in pronunciation there. And so if, for example, I were to say il vient de, vient, it sounds like I'm saying the following. Il vient de. He has just done something. Il vient de. However, if I say ils viennent, okay, it sounds like the word for Vienna, which is also Vienne, spelled differently. Il vient de couper le fromage. Ils viennent de couper le fromage. Il vient, ils viennent, il vient, viennent. So sometimes you can mix that up. I think I probably just did. But if you're making the effort to establish that you're talking about they as opposed to he, or they, the females, as opposed to her, then you're going to need to make sure you pronounce a double N. Elles viennent de parler avec sa mère, par exemple. Elles viennent de parler avec leur mère, right? Because it would be their mothers. They have just spoken with their mothers. We should do a lesson on possessive, well, just possessives basically. I think that'd be quite a useful one because they can be confusing, especially when you have son and sa, which means his or her, according to the gender of the object that you're describing. It's being possessed, if you like. So let's look at some of these examples here. How would I say I have just done something? I have just. I have just. Je viens de faire quelque chose. Okay. What about we have just? We have just. Let's say we have just eaten. Nous venons de manger. Okay. What about we have just paid the bill? We have just paid. Nous venons de payer l'addition. Nous venons de payer l'addition. Excellent. We have just left. We have just left. Nous venons de partir. Okay. What about we have just arrived? We have just arrived. So it would be nous venons de. Nous venons de. Okay, so that was kind of a trick question. So instead of nous venons de arriver, I want you to try and make the contraction. Nous venons d'arriver. Nous venons d'arriver. In fact, you might just want to practice a few stock phrases. I've just arrived, I've just left, I've just eaten, I've just spoken with so-and-so. Okay. In fact, we'll do those in a sec. So, nous venons, instead of nous venons de arriver, as in de and arriver, two separate words, you contract them together, okay? So it looks like this. Nous venons d'arriver. We have just arrived. Yay! So let's do some stock phrases. Things that would be useful, say, if you're going to France, when eventually we can easily travel there again. I've just arrived, I've just left, I've just eaten. I have just. So that's je viens de. Je viens de. Je viens de. Eaten. Je viens de manger. I have just arrived. Je viens d'arriver. Okay, I have just left. Je viens de partir. I have just done my homework. Je viens de faire les devoirs. And then what else? I have just finished the lesson. Je viens de finir la leçon. Finir. Ok? Je viens de manger, je viens d'arriver, je viens de partir, je viens de faire, je viens de finir, plus whatever the complement is the rest of your sentence. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Je viens de finir. If you're interested in becoming a member of the club, my French club, or indeed my Italian club, you can find details at morelanguagesolutions.com. That's MOORE, languagesolutions.com. At the moment, there's a few days left of an offer I'm running where you can join for a year's membership for £40. That will get you 12 handouts, which normally look a little bit like this, direct to your email. And there'll also be links to the video tutorial that goes with it, and you can also get or benefit from a 10% discount on blocks of one-to-one or private tuition with me at More Language Solutions. So thank you very much for that. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section, and if you find this video useful, just please give it a like and subscribe, and merci beaucoup. À la prochaine fois. Au revoir.